What is
Hello.
up, everyone? Happy Sunday. Not our usual streaming day, but we just make do with whatever 2020 throws at us. Welcome to Behind the Basket, your favorite NBA talk show. And we're very excited because the NBA regular season starts on Tuesday. It'll be shortened
Already.
season. It's going to be 72 games, I believe.
hmm
Going to be a little bit different, but it'll be very exciting to get NBA basketball back. The first thing I think we need to note on is who I believe already won the season. That would be the Milwaukee Bucks, as Giannis Antetokounmpo, the back-to-back MVP, has officially signed his extension with the team, meaning everyone in Milwaukee can rest happy. Giannis becomes the highest paid player in NBA history with good reason.
hmm I actually have a list. We'll go over it later when we talk about the other extensions, but of the top, let's see, six highest paid. And it's surprising. The list isn't who I thought it would have been at all. But yeah, that's great for Giannis. I'm glad he decided to stay there and become well, he was already the franchise player, but expand on that. Oh, here comes Jake. What?
As long as the Giannis and the Bucks are looking like they do, they don't win a championship no matter how much they pay the man.
How much they pay the man? Oh, he's
got a
it sounds
5-year, $228 million contract. It's the biggest one in NBA history, which is a record that appears to be broken every season. Now that, the cap is slowly growing and teams are seeing how much player movement is happening in free agency, and they really want to lock in their stars. People in Milwaukee were sweating bullets because, you see Kawhi finesse himself to two different teams. You see James Harden, who we'll talk about later, trying to get himself out. Anthony Davis being able to kind of force a trade to the Lakers. And if you're a team, you'd rather at least have their contract on the books and be able to trade and get something back instead of watching them walk away for free, which happened to Oklahoma City when Kevin Durant left for the Warriors. It's happened countless times. So Milwaukee, they just win right now. They can rest happy. Of course, they're going to do what it takes to get Giannis a championship.
Yeah.
But the franchise owners have to be so happy that he finally signed that extension instead of testing free agency where we know everyone and their dog are going to want.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Okay, so there's a bunch of other extensions too. Kuzma, how much would his was what, a 3-year?
It was a 3-year, $40 million. It's not a huge deal. I think it's a great deal for both teams, to be honest. Given Kuzma's
what's up?
Given Kuzma's production, he's not really worth a lot more money than that, but he's also a very solid bench piece who can still start if needed for the Lakers. And if they're trying to solidify their team for another championship run, it's really good that they get to keep Kuzma on a very team-friendly deal.
They've locked down quite a few of their players. I mean, they got LeBron and AD there for sure, and now Kuzma. And then there was another one there that did multiple. I don't remember who, though.
If I remember correctly, it might have been KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I believe.
Yeah.
You got... And he was actually surprisingly good in the playoffs. He struggled in many regular season games. But in the playoffs, he showed up when Danny Green kind of wasn't, which is why I think they decided to keep him and then trade Danny Green away, which is what happened.
Where did he go again? Did he go the Sixers or?
He first went to the Thunder, who then traded him to the Sixers, which is where he will spend at least part of the season. We've seen a lot of little trades happening, so we'll see how long he lasts there.
Okay, another extension was Rudy Gobert, and he is now the highest paid big man in the league, and he comes in third on the list of highest paid or the biggest contracts in the league right now at $205 million.
Now, is that highest paid this season or ever?
I want to say the highest paid big man ever.
I know he's the highest big man, but you said third.
Okay,
highest
so this
overall.
season, the list of biggest contracts is Giannis, Westbrook
Mhm.
at 207, Gobert at 205, Steph Curry at 201, Anthony Davis at 190, and Klay Thompson at 190. So it's not the list that I thought it would be. I don't know. I guess I was thinking LeBron had a bigger payday than that, but I guess not.
Yeah, some of those are interesting because of the way that contracts work in the NBA. So, for the example of Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook, you can sign for more money with your existing team than signing with a new team. So
Oh,
that's
right.
why Giannis and Gobert have such big contracts compared to LeBron. You'd think LeBron was the highest paid person in the league, but since he's changed teams more frequently,
Yeah.
you just literally cannot pay him more than you would Westbrook, who spent his entire career with the Thunder before signing that extension. Giannis has spent his entire career with Milwaukee, so they get that bonus. It's something that the NBA put together to try and help small market teams keep their stars. So, for example, the Thunder and the Bucks are two great examples of teams who aren't luring in free agents because of where they are. You know, it's not
Mm-hmm.
in LA, it's not in Miami, it's not in New York. So what do they have that those teams can't offer? A whole lot more money.
Interesting. I did not. Well, I guess we did talk about that one. Okay, so then do you want to move on to James Harden and his traders?
I think before we get into this rant, one other notable extension is Paul George. I opened up very enthusiastically for Milwaukee, but you really have to credit the Clippers. I've been worried that Paul George and Kawhi would leave in free agency and that entire
Mhm.
franchise would just be a dumpster fire for the next 5 years. But they've signed one of them to a max contract extension. It's probably not the one that they'd prefer.
Right.
But regardless of if they keep Kawhi or not, I wouldn't be surprised if Kawhi left, just how he's been for the past couple seasons. The Clippers have some sort of future because Paul George still, despite the jokes, he's still an all-star caliber player,
Yeah.
and he'll be able to give them at least something until they get their own picks back.
How much was his extension? Because I didn't see that one.
I don't remember because it was like a week or so ago. It was a while ago. Giannis will leave the Bucks just like AD signed that contract with the Pelicans after he made his money. The thing though for Milwaukee, whether or not Giannis stays with them or not, they got the extension, which
Mhm.
means that they will get something in return and
Mhm.
not let Giannis walk for nothing. So if you're Milwaukee, it's a win-win. And there are very few trade packages you would accept for Giannis right now. So if they do ever have to trade them or trade him, excuse me, they're going to have to get someone like Anthony Davis in return, someone
Right.
who is somewhere in that ballpark of talent. So it's not like they're going to trade him and get Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry back. They're going to get
Right.
another top 5 talent because the teams in the league know that they're not going to steal Giannis for nothing.
Cooper's here.
Welcome to the show, Cooper. Always good to have you.
Oh God, she's so starved for attention all the time.
That's why she's on the show all the time.
Well, while we're on the Clippers, okay, can you explain to me this Jerry West drama? What is going on? Because I don't even.
Yes. So they've kind of kept it under wraps. It's not hugely publicized right now, but the NBA is investigating allegations made against the Clippers and Jerry West, 4-year, $190 million. Who are we talking about for that?
That was for the Paul George.
For Paul George. Thank you kindly, Jake, for the thumbs up. Okay, so there is a lawsuit being filed by Johnny Wilkes. He is a close friend to some of Kawhi's circle, and he's talking about some kind of under-the-table deals that West made to lure Kawhi to the Clippers over other teams like the Lakers.
Mhm.
And that's basically a classic case of tampering. You know, there are rules that the league has in place so that teams and executives can't unfairly lure or pay off players to join their team, and that's basically what's going on right there.
So I think I read that he paid Kawhi's friend, like, I want to say a crazy amount, like millions. Oh my gosh, she's just, oh, I'm sorry. But I want to say like millions or something. They paid it to Kawhi's friend or something. That was, I vaguely remember reading that at some point in the past week. But,
yeah, that's actually this Johnny Wilkes guy. I'm just kind of reading it right now. His lawsuit is because West and the Clippers owe him $2.5 million in an oral agreement made for helping the Clippers sign Kawhi. So this Johnny Wilkes guy, he was, he's part of Kawhi's circle, which they make a lot of jokes about how Kawhi listens to his uncle and his friends more than he listens to anyone else in his career decisions. This guy said, hey, I'll help you get Kawhi to the Clippers if you pay me 2.5, and they still haven't paid him, so he's bringing it public. The Clippers are denying all of this, of course. We'll see how the investigation goes. They say they're being compliant. I heard a rumor. I'd have to look into it, but if there are a big old tampering thing, it says the Clippers could be fined up to $10 million and lose draft picks. I've also seen that they might possibly nullify Kawhi's contract, making him a free agent earlier, because the contract's kind of void at that point because of corruption, if you'd call it that.
So he wouldn't actually get in trouble, though, right? Kawhi wouldn't, if it was hypothetically true?
I don't think he would. He might get a slap on the wrist. I think if anyone gets in trouble, it will be the Clippers. And even though this Johnny Wilkes guy is trying to get $2.5 million, he'd probably get in trouble too.
Yeah.
But Kawhi is such a prominent player in the league that they can't really afford to do a whole lot to him, which is why some people have been floating around. Maybe they'll just cut off his contract and make him a free agent. Maybe he's only eligible for X amount of dollars. It's just a storyline to keep in mind for the rest of the season, because my thought is if it does get addressed, it'll probably be fully taken care of after this season is over, when they can sit down with Kawhi and say, this is what's going to happen.
That's really bold of this dude. If he's so close with Kawhi and he's like, you know what? I tricked this guy into going, so you owe me money.
Yeah.
I would not want to be that dude's friend anymore.
I know. And this isn't the first time there's been stuff like this. Not as far as tampering, but Tim Duncan, he had his accountant or something, one of his finance guys, was busted for stealing millions of dollars from him.
I don't know where I know that from, but I knew that. That's a random thing.
You got to watch out. Get yourself good friends.
Yeah.
But Clippers still got to be a little bit happy with themselves for at least getting Paul George, who they can use for trade bait, or simply to try to keep them afloat before they can actually tank, since all their picks are in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Oklahoma's going to have some good years.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited personally. But, enough about me talking about our horde of draft picks. I think the topic of the night, and this will probably take a good chunk of time, maybe the next 10, 15 minutes, is your boy James Harden. Lots of fun stuff going on with him.
So, I'm at the point where I'm like, just let him go. Go. Find somebody, get a good trade. I don't want, let's wait for Jake to say what he needs to say.
Here comes.
It has literally been 2 weeks since you were on this exact show. Oh, I'm so happy James Harden is staying. He's going to be with the Houston Rockets for life.
I'm pretty sure I didn't say that. But let me explain this, okay? Number one, he completely has been unprofessional. He went out partying after the NBA put out a notice that you can't go to clubs and bars, and he got videotaped or not, I guess that's not what you call it these days, but he got recorded. And then like was what he had to quarantine, didn't show up to training on time, all kinds of stuff. If you don't want to be there, then okay. Why would you want a player who doesn't want to play for you playing for you? But real quick, before we get all into all of Harden, that point exactly is why I'm so sad that they waived Gerald Green. That dude has a I-45 tattoo on him. He is all about Houston. Yes, thank you, my broken heart. They waived him, and I was devastated yesterday about that. You're not going to find a player who wants to play for you more. But anyways, sorry. Back to James Harden. I think that what I predict is that he's going to end up going to the Heat for 2 players and maybe 3 picks. That's what I expect. I don't know about I've read that there's some rumors about them coming to something with Brooklyn, but unless they're trading Kyrie, I don't think that they've got the players to trade for him.
My prediction is that he does not get traded. I think a lot of team executives are seeing because it's not entirely about James Harden just wanting out of Houston. There's all this stuff coming out about the culture in Houston going on right now, about some of the toxicity, about Harden not having the right mentality. I was reading some stuff about how, Westbrook and Harden stayed friends, but part of the reason they didn't want to play together is because Westbrook is kind of militaristic in his approach to basketball, almost to a fault, but like he's always on top of things. He's in the gym 2 hours before everybody else. He's early to film sessions, and while he's being early to all this stuff, James Harden's showing up late. And that's not the superstar mindset you want when you're trying to go for a championship, when you need to work harder than everybody else. And I don't think executives want that kind of guy on their team, especially for his price tag. So the biggest trade rumor I've seen
there are
is
plenty of people that want James Harden because he's James Harden.
Maybe,
but he would have already been traded.
So say that.
If there were plenty of teams that wanted James Harden, he would have already been traded because they would have paid his price. Or sorry, let me rephrase the right price. They would have paid the right
price.
They haven't offered the right price yet.
But if the teams really wanted him, because if I can get James Harden for, I don't know, let's say Semi Ojeleye and a 2nd-round pick, yeah, I'm going to do it. But anybody's going to do that. But now you want Jason Tatum, you want Jaylen Brown. No, nobody's going to, if they wanted him that bad, they would have already done it.
There have been talks about Jaylen Brown. There have been talks about Jamal Murray. There have been talks about Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jake on this, though.
But you're telling me there's been hold on.
Hear you.
Hold on. This is between me and Elizabeth right now.
Okay, all right. I'll step back. I'm stepping back.
So you're telling me that you heard all these names floated and thought any of them could be serious? Because they're just throwing darts at the board right now.
They're from my Twitter sources.
It is the Houston PR team trying to raise his price by saying people that aren't actually involved in the trades are involved in the trades.
No.
It is absolutely what's happening.
I don't think so. But you know what I do want to say about Houston though is that there was none of this drama talk, like saying, "Oh, well, he did this and he did that," before Morey and D'Antoni left. I don't know which one of them was holding everybody in check, but they left.
Definitely Morey.
There's drama. Like they used to not
welcome back, Hunter.
Anything. But they wouldn't talk about anything. And now, my God, it is so dramatic. I just want basketball. I'm cool if he goes. I think the team looks great right now, even without him. John Wall is playing great. Cousins is slim. He's making threes. He's looking good. Tate has been a really good defensive player for them in the preseason games. What if teams don't want to? Well, that's on them. They're gonna have to figure out how to use them then.
So let me just break down that question. The question says, what if teams don't want to run a James Harden offense? It's really, what if teams just don't want to play defense? because that's all James Harden does.
But you put all that blame on James Harden. That's not all James Harden. That's Mike D'Antoni too.
If you're playing 5-on-4, you can't really make any other excuse for it.
But it was not just him running the entire thing. He had a coach that let him do that. It's not all James Harden.
Name one coach in the NBA right now, with the exception of Popovich, that could control that. We all know Popovich is one of the greatest of all time. There is not a single coach that would sit there and look at James Harden and tell him, no, you're running my system.
Right.
Which means James Harden is not a good basketball player because he cannot fit any system in the NBA.
How are you going to say that the highest scorer is not a good basketball player?
I could become the high scorer if I shoot the ball as many times as he does.
You
I
wouldn't
don't
make
even
it as
play
much.
basketball.
You wouldn't make it as much. That's the thing. Everybody can shoot it as many times as him, but they're not going to make it as many times as him because he's James freaking Harden.
Steph Curry does a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about him when he comes back this year. He's not in my radar yet. Actually, have you guys seen the Warriors play any games yet or anything? Have y'all watched?
Haven't been able to catch as many games as I'd like because they don't really have a good preseason television schedule to be able to catch those games. But people have some pretty high expectations for the Warriors, even with Clay being out. I think this is a great time to segue away from Harden. Steve Kerr. Eric Spoelstra could be one coach that could put him in his place. My thought, the first person I actually thought of was Brad Stevens. But I think there's also, coaches who just simply don't want to deal with that kind of player. But I digress. Oh, and I brought Jake back in.
Brad Stevens. Of all people, Brad Stevens. You think Brad Stevens can control James Harden? He couldn't control Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving's a mess of a player too.
It's not as Kyrie's kind of a basket case, which we can talk about a little bit later. But Brad Stevens actually can put together a system. He's considered one of the greatest X and O coaches in the NBA. Right now, we've only really seen in recent years the D'Antoni version of Harden. We haven't really seen any other coach try and put him in a system that's not just, okay, take the ball. D'Antoni even said once in a press conference, I just tell him to take the ball down the court and then he figures out what to do with it. That's not a good plan. But if you give him a Nick Nurse or a Brad Stevens and try to actually run plays, cut down on ISOs, then we might actually see something from him. But a lot of these coaches are probably like, I don't want to. I like the guys I have. The people I have to give up to get Harden are going to ruin the system I have, especially when all these guys are 23, 24 years old and still have their best years of basketball ahead of them.
Can I just say that Stephen Silas has done a wonderful job? Have y'all catched any of the preseason games?
I barely watched the season games, let alone the preseason.
Okay, well, Stephen Silas has done a good job of integrating his style of offense with James Harden's.
Houston did go 3-1 in preseason.
What? They did.
So segueing possibly into some preseason stuff with this, we've got some preseason stats and records for the teams. Houston went 3-1. The only undefeated teams are the Lakers. They went 4-0. Utah went 3-0. There's a lot of weird numbers of games because the Pelicans and Sixers both went 2-0, so they didn't play full games. The other teams to go 3-1 in preseason were the Chicago Bulls with the Rockets, the Grizzlies, and the Knicks. So very interesting bunch of people there in preseason, but you got to take that with a grain of salt because very few starters are playing more than 25 minutes in these games. It's getting a lot of rookies kind of up to speed with the NBA. But, Houston did have a successful preseason, and I'm very impressed with how Wall and Boogie Cousins look. So that's a definite plus side no matter what happens with Harden.
So I caught the end of the Lakers-Phoenix game today, And I was sitting there watching, like, it was like, I want to say the last half of the fourth quarter. And they finished the game, and all of the Suns are walking off, and I see them shake Chris Paul's hand. And I was like, I completely forgot they had Chris Paul, because
It's weird, huh?
they were winning up until about the time I turned it on. They started to trail a bit, but I don't know. I think they're going to be a solid team.
It's interesting. I do agree. They went 8-0 in preseason, or excuse me, in the last 8 games of the bubble, 8-0 in the bubble, before getting Chris Paul. And I don't think they gave up too much to get Chris Paul. You know, they still have Booker, they still got Ayton, so they've got their core.
Right.
But they went 0-4 in preseason. Now, preseason's not really the end-all, be-all. You know, there's so many other factors. Rosters that aren't complete. You've got your star players not playing full minutes. But, you know, there's still some things for them to work out before they really tackle the West. Devin Booker, he was 7th in scoring for preseason, but he's top for anyone who played 4 full games, because everyone above him played less than that. Steph Curry actually was 5th. He played 3 games, scored 22.7 points per game, shooting 39% from 3. So hopefully he's getting back up to speed, because the league's always more fun with Steph Curry. And
Did you hear? Oh, go ahead.
There's just 2 more people about from preseason before we dig into some of the broader team perspectives. First is the Lakers. They got this guy, Talen Horton-Tucker. Relatively unknown. You know, he averaged maybe like 4 points a game last year, I think, when I looked it up. And he just blew everybody out of the water, scoring 20.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 54%, 53% from 3, and playing 31 minutes a game. And Coach Vogel of the Lakers, he says that he's putting them in a very difficult spot, because once you get into the season, you only have so many roster spots. You only have so many minutes to give out. And I don't think they were expecting him to do this well in preseason. So now he's got to be like, okay, how many minutes do I give him? What sort of chance do I have?
Right.
So he was a huge surprise. And then just after the huge James Harden thing, Christian Wood, he played 1 game in preseason. He had a fabulous debut. He scored 27 points, shooting 10 of 18 with 10 rebounds in only 24 minutes.
That's what I was going to bring up just now. I was going to ask you if you saw his crazy night. So he didn't get to play the first 3 preseason games. He had a abrasion on his elbow. So they, you know, just to play it safe, they didn't play him. And yeah, he came out that last night and just balled out. Apparently has great chemistry with Harden. So that sucks, because if Harden leaves, then they don't have that. But I think you said he had 10 rebounds, right? Something like that. Yeah. He had a crazy good night. I'm excited to see how he does this season for sure.
Very good. He made 2 out of his 6 threes, made all 5 of his free throws. So he's looking like the perfect 2021 NBA big man. And I think he can find good chemistry with Wall as well. John Wall ran a very good pick and roll with his big men in Washington. So I imagine that in the minutes that Wood doesn't share with Harden, or if something happens where Harden's shipped off, I think he can maintain that production with John Wall.
He might be next season's most improved player of the year.
He could. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too. Well, yeah, me too. I'd love to see them go on to win the championship.
Oh yeah. We can let's hold off on the I want to talk a little bit about, and maybe we can do this now, some of our predictions for preseason, or for the regular season, I guess. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Most Improved. We can start with MVP is kind of an easy one. I think that if
it's Giannis, right?
What?
Giannis, right?
I have to say, I mean, there's voter fatigue. People might not want to see Giannis win his third MVP in a row. I don't know if anyone's won 3 MVPs in a row since like Larry Bird. I don't know if MJ did it. Doesn't happen very often. But I look at all these other stars, and they've got someone who's going to take away votes for them. So LeBron and Anthony Davis, I feel like they're going to cancel each other out. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, unless Paul George gets even worse, they're going to cancel themselves out to a degree. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, again. So really it comes out to who are the single stars on their team, which is Giannis, Steph Curry.
Might be Russell Westbrook.
And then like a Nikola Russell Westbrook. I'd love to see some Russell Westbrook nonsense, but you got to keep in mind Bradley Beal scored over 30 points a game last season.
That's right. I forgot they had them.
He's going to take off a lot too. So like if Steph Curry is still struggling and isn't back to his MVP self, Doncic, I think, is a great choice.
I forgot about Luka. Man,
I don't think Kristaps is going to be good enough to take away MVP votes from Luka. If Luka can get to a top 4 seed in the West, I'd give it to him. But right now, I think my preseason prediction will stick with Giannis.
I would love to see Luka win. That would be awesome. Okay, so then my vote for most improved will hopefully be Christian Wood. What about Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year, I think, is a hard one. Because this draft class doesn't have the type of talent we saw from Zion Williamson and John Morant. You know, out the gate, we knew that those two were special generational talents. Right. Just to put it in perspective, Zion only played 2 preseason games, but he scored 28.5 points per game in those 2 with 10 rebounds, shooting 57%. If he puts up any sort of those kinds of numbers and can play a full season, I will not be surprised to see Zion be the most improved player because his potential that we've seen is so high to the point that people thought he would win Rookie of the Year if he had just played more games. But for the rookies, I don't really believe in Anthony Edwards, the number 1 overall pick.
He's with the Timberwolves or...
He's in the Timberwolves. He really struggled in preseason, and I've just had doubts about him this whole time. I think we might see a surprise someone low. I think LaMelo Ball is in the best situation to get Rookie of the Year. He's going to get a lot of minutes, and he has good enough teammates with Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier that he might actually get like some assists and stuff, which is a huge part of his game. 2020 draft class underrated. Don't really know about that. I think it's deep, but I don't think it's spectacular. I think like an Isaac Okoro kind of guy, or maybe Obi Toppin with the New York Knicks. I think one of those guys is going to really surprise everybody and just have a breakout season that people might not be ready for.
I think it's going to be LaMelo. That's just my random prediction. I have no reasoning behind it. That's just
LaMelo's my safe pick. I think he's a stat stuffer. If we don't take into account defense, which I think he has the tools to, but he's just not quite there yet with NBA IQ and stuff like that. He knows he can score. He's already shown some great playmaking abilities, and he's an oversized guard who will be able to rebound. Rookie of the Year watch for Cole Anthony. I actually do really like him, and I admire his work ethic, but I don't know if he's going to get the minutes to pursue Rookie of the Year. He's in Orlando, so like if he starts balling out, there's no reason why he can't start, but Orlando's kind of a weird team. I could definitely see him staying on the bench for the entire season.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
All rookies are going to suck, especially this season, though. In my opinion, for a good while with no summer camp and very short preseason and training camp. That's actually a good point that I haven't thought about is usually the rookies get a lot more time to kind of acclimate to the NBA. And they're really just not this season. And it's probably going to be weird for them not playing in front of fans for most of, if not the entire season. But like we saw in the bubble, that doesn't mean someone can just explode and play out of their minds. So hopefully some of these rookies really show that they want it and they get after it.
What about the Pacers? Have they done anything this offseason? I haven't heard anything about them.
The Pacers. You know, I don't really know if they've done much. I want to say they might have like re-signed some guys for like some okay, but I don't think they've traded any of their guys. You know, they've kept Brogdon, they've got Oladipo, Miles Turner never got traded. They still got Sabonis and TJ Warren. You know, that's their starting five right there.
Mm-hmm.
If they've made any moves, I don't think they're big ones because I certainly don't remember them.
Yeah, I just haven't heard anything about them at all this offseason. Like since they left the bubble.
No.
Okay. What else do we got? Okay, so they're making the trade deadline March 25th. Did we talk about that last time?
We did not. March 25th. Behind him, DJ Augustine and an inconsistent Fultz. Cole Anthony can be/will be this year Kobe White/Tyler Hero. I really would love to see that. I really would. And I actually think DJ Augustine isn't even on the team anymore. I think he might be in Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken, which means that would be all the more true. Mm-hmm. So I'm all for a Cole Anthony Rookie of the Year, come from behind, dark horse, underdog story. I'm also, of course, I will personally be rooting for my Oklahoma City rookies. We've got some good-looking guys right now.
Who's your new coach? Mark, we couldn't say his last name. Mark Daignault?
Something like that. I'll learn it eventually once I can watch some games.
Yeah,
see the announcers who've been practicing his name all this time.
Yeah, but
hear them say it.
I expect that their team will look similar to last year because he was just promoted. He was already an assistant there. So I'm sure that their offense and stuff will be similar to what it was already.
Well, we'll see because there's some big changes for Oklahoma City. Billy Donovan left to go to Chicago, but he also took I don't know exactly where he ranks on the totem pole, but he took Mo Cheeks with him, who's like his right-hand man. Mm-hmm. So they've lost two prominent coaches in their coaching staff. And also, trading away Chris Paul means you have to change a lot for your offense because he's just such a floor general. His basketball IQ is off the charts. And they're kind of handing the reins over to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which is the right move, but his play style is very different. Last season, he was a much more score-first guard, not a facilitator like Chris Paul was. He's a slithery finisher. His outside shot is solid, but not as reliable as Chris Paul's was. And also, we just don't really have a lot of, I don't want to say they're not good players, but our roster's pretty thin as far as veteran leadership and stuff. We've got Al Horford. And
you guys also lost Steve Adams, right? He went to the Pelicans?
Steven Adams is in New Orleans. He is a Pelican. Yeah.
That's crazy. I always liked him as a player. And he's such a nice guy. He always stops when he knocks someone over and he stops to help him up.
I love Steven Adams, and I really hope all the best for him, but his contract was pretty big. Really? we paid him a pretty good amount to keep him. And as much as I love him as a person, he just hasn't proven to be the all-encompassing center that we wanted him to be. His defense is solid, but it's not, life-changing. Pelicans with the strongest front court in the league. Yeah, he's very strong, but he gets faked out a lot of untapped potential for sure. So I'm not opposed to that trade at all. Hunter, you're a Thunder fan. I really like Shai and Al Horford. I got the Thunder sneaking into the playoffs 6 through 8. That would be absolutely incredible, wouldn't it? I'm not going to say that much because the West is so stacked, and I think Phoenix probably jump the Thunder with their preseason rankings. It will definitely depend on how all of their young guys show out because, you've got Baisley and Dort and the rookies, Hamidou Diallo. These are all guys who have played only like 1 or 2 seasons or no seasons, being put into much bigger roles.
Sorry, you got a little choppy for a second. I didn't hear the last sentence you said.
Just a lot of untapped potential, like was said, and we'll just have to see what they're able to accomplish. But
no one thought they were going to make playoffs last year either. And then
true, but they had Chris Paul last.
That's true, but it's mostly the same team, sorta. It's got a lot of the same players.
They've been making so many trades. We don't have Steven Adams anymore. We don't have Chris Paul anymore. We don't have Nerlens Noel anymore. We don't have Danilo Gallinari anymore. We've lost a lot of key pieces to last year's Thunder team. And I wouldn't be surprised if we trade Al Horford as soon as someone can. He's a great veteran leader, but I think if this team is where I think we will be, which is probably like 30 wins, 35 maybe.
That's all you think?
The West is good. They are really good. And keep in mind, it's only a 72-game season. So 30, 35 isn't as bad as it would be in an 82-game season.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they can do better than that. I
hope so.
At least 40.
I would love for them to be in one of those bottom playoff spots again.
Yeah.
Especially as we laugh, as we push people down when we own their picks and we just make them better.
Yeah.
But,
y'all are going to have some good years coming up for sure, though.
Yeah, we're definitely projected to be very good. And, in this 5 to 10 year window when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hits his peak, we figure out which rookies are good, or we start trading our draft picks for really good players.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is the drama about Kyrie? Because I only read one thing.
What did you read? Let's start with what you know.
Well, I watched a video of him burning sage in the basketball court, which I don't necessarily think that's that crazy. I think it has to do with his religion and everything, but it blew up on Twitter and it got very much made fun of.
Yeah, I think that's only a big deal because of everything leading up to that point. It's pretty well known that Kyrie is trying to embrace like his Native American heritage and stuff like that. But earlier, Kyrie said he put out this thing and he basically said he was not going to talk to anyone from the media. He was just never going to do any media stuff, which is a league requirement that the players, show up to their media spots in the preseason and post game and those kinds of things. And he said, I'm not going to do it. And he sent out this big kind of cryptic message about how he doesn't talk to pawns and his attention is worth more. And he got fined $25,000. And the league basically stepped in and said, we're going to keep fining you if you don't talk to the media. So then he started, talking to him again. But then his Instagram is full of a lot of interesting content with very creatively written blurbs on them. I am kind of stuff. And so he's kind of portraying himself like he's this like visionary who's like enlightened, and I think people are kind of letting it rub them the wrong way.
Is Kyrie bipolar? Doesn't he come out and say he had bipolar disorder?
I don't know. I don't know if you're thinking about Kanye, because
I know Kanye
certainly is.
I know Kanye is bipolar. I want to say that I had read that he was.
I don't know.
Because that sounds very bipolar. God complex.
Just a brief little search. There looks to be some sort of mood swing stuff going on with him that people have been worried about.
Hi,
Chad. Welcome to the show. More than anything, I hope that once the season starts, we can stop thinking about the weird stuff that Kyrie says and the
Yeah.
sage burning and stuff. And he's very entertaining to watch on the court. And I'm very
Oh.
interested to see his on-court chemistry with Kevin Durant, who looked very good in preseason, which should terrify the league.
I didn't get to see any of their preseason snippets or anything. Like, I haven't seen anything. I think I was right before this, I saw a clip and it just said Kevin Durant. And I didn't get a chance to watch it before I logged on. So he's looking good.
He's looking solid, and I don't think they've had a lot of chances to figure out what lineup they want to use with Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, the other guys that they've got that are high usage ball handlers. But Durant's first score was a driving dunk, and that's a really good sign because the concern is his athleticism with the type of injury that he's had. No one really doubted that his shooting was going to come back, but seeing him retain a good portion of his mobility, if not all of it, means that he should offensively come back really strong. And he also had several good blocks, which means he's still got some decent vertical. His timing is still there. It'll just really depend as a coach and as a brand new coach in Steve Nash. I don't know how you work his game with a very ball dominant Kyrie Irving. Let's see how he makes that work. Based on talent alone, they're a playoff team. How far they go in the playoffs will depend. Nets averaging 120 points per game this season. I don't know about defense. They'll score 120 and they'll allow 118, probably something.
Do they have any good defensive players?
They've got DeAndre Jordan, if he's still worth anything.
That's interesting.
I don't remember if they kept Jarrett Allen or not, but he's a pretty good interior defender. But perimeter defenders, which is a very important part of the NBA today, I don't know if they really have many of that.
There was something else I have. I do have a fun Kawhi fact.
Oh, let's hear it.
Kawhi cannot put his hands in his pockets.
Okay.
They are too big to put in his pockets. He would look at his friends and see that they could do things that he couldn't do. And the example that he gave was he said, like, put your hands in your pockets. I can't do that.
Very interesting.
I thought
He
that was
should
the
wear
most
more
interesting thing.
hoodies with the big old pockets in front.
I love Kawhi's weird personality.
He's a fun guy. Speaking of Kawhi, I did actually have one more thing about the Clippers, and it was that Coach Tyronn Lue, he's well known as the guy that Allen Iverson stepped over and the guy who coached LeBron James during the Cavaliers championship. He said that he plans to use Kawhi in the triangle offense this season. Now, the reason that matters is because the triangle offense is what Phil Jackson used to win 6 championships with the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan and 5 championships with the LA Lakers with Kobe Bryant. Now, he plans on using the triangle offense with Kawhi as that kind of MJ Kobe kind of player. Kawhi definitely has the shot creating ability, but there's concern about Ty Lue's coaching a system like that in the modern NBA. It's a very basketball IQ heavy system because it's not really set plays that you can memorize. It's all about reading the defense and taking what's given to you. And there's also some concern about how their big men can handle a system like that. You know, it's a lot of passing involved. And if they're expecting their traditional bigs to do a lot more ball handling in this kind of system, it could lead to more turnovers. But it will be interesting to see because it's such a renowned system that just hasn't found success in the modern NBA. And if Ty Lue, of all people, can pull it off, we could see some incredible developments in offense in the future.
I'm going to read about that and learn about it because that sounds super interesting. I like that.
It is. You can see some great stuff from like Phil Jackson stuff talking about it with, you know, the graphs that kind of show how the triangles move across the court and how it gets everyone involved. Sorry, man, my brain turned off after you started with Tyronn Lue. That's my biggest reservation. I think this will be a chance to see how much of his coaching is actually good and how much of his Cavaliers days was I just had LeBron James.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else do we got? Oh, I wanted to know. My phone died right before this, so I can't Google anything tonight. What is the first game? And it starts.
What is the first
Tuesday?
game or when?
Yeah. Well, I know it's on
Uh,
Tuesday, right?
It
But
is
I don't
definitely
know.
on Tuesday. I think it is a double header, and I think it's good games. I think Warriors and Nets is one of them. It's still pulling up. Yes. So the first game, it'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern. It will be Golden State versus the Brooklyn Nets. And then at 10 p.m. Eastern will be the Clippers and the Lakers, starting off the battle for LA. Those will both be on TNT for anyone who's got that. Or
Okay. So let's do, just for this week, because we can't do it with every game every week or anything like that, but let's do some predictions just for like the first few games.
Let's do it.
So
I love it.
Warriors or Nets? I'm saying Nets.
This is probably the hardest game that we could start with because both of these teams are so unproven.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is Steph gonna look coming back? They've got so many new players with Wiggins and Oubre and Wiseman. Is Draymond actually gonna do anything this season? Because last season he was kind of And then from Brooklyn, is KD and Kyrie gonna work? And I think I'm going to pick Brooklyn. I think Golden State could be the better team because of the pieces they have for a system. But with it being the first game of the season, I think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving alone will be able to win that game.
I agree. I absolutely say Nets. I think Lakers and Clips is an easy one. Lakers for me. What's yours?
I would also say the Lakers. They're the defending champions. They, on paper, should be better with Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder. And also the Clippers on paper should be worse because they lost Montrezl Harrell. They got some guys. We'll have to see how well they replace Harrell. And we'll have to see how well Paul George does after kind of stinking it up in another postseason.
Okay, what about the next night? I know our team plays, right? Houston and Oklahoma Open.
All right, let's see. December 23rd, we have a lot of games. One of them, which is the Thunder versus the Rockets. Clippers are the, I missed it, greatest of all time regular season team. Mother-in-law is making tamales. I got to go to the store to get supplies. Thank you guys for the great show. I'm sorry about the Rockets. Thunder's false hope is better than no hope. Thunder get the 7th. Yep, kicking the Suns out of the playoffs. I'm all about it. Thanks for joining.
Enjoy your tamales.
Enjoy those good tamales. We'll try to keep a better schedule up to date.
Yes.
Probably in 2021 because Christmas is going to throw off our plans again, most likely.
New Year's.
So let's see which of these games are actually good predictions because honestly, I think picking Houston over the Thunder this season is kind of a no-brainer. Last season, it would have been much more difficult as the 7-game series proved.
I heard that they're trying to make the Harden move happen before the season starts. So if they play, it might be a Harden-free team.
Wow.
But I'm still going for the Rockets. I think they're going to win.
I would still pick the Rockets simply because if they make a Harden move, they're getting a very good player in return.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
because it's got to be a Ben Simmons or a Jaylen Brown, or if the Heat decide they are willing to give up Tyler Hero as kind of
that's where I think Tyler
Houston.
Hero, maybe even Duncan Robinson, 3 picks, and they've got Harden.
Wow.
They just started selling James Harden shoes in Miami. Just so you know, they randomly started selling those. So
those
next
salesmen are picking up on the hype.
Oh, you froze for a second. What?
Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good. What'd you say?
Okay. So looking at these, not all of them I think are going to be good games. I hope they all are. I think a good prediction will be on the 23rd, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics.
Ooh.
The Celtics are a very good team. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They should only be getting better. They got Tristan Thompson, who fills a much-needed position for them. And then you've, of course, got Giannis, and we'll get the first real look of how he plays full-time with Drew Holiday.
I say Celtics take it. I think they're just going to spend hot.
Bucks because I'm all about that Giannis triple
I know.
MVP. I love Drew Holiday as a player. And they were the best regular season team. So playoff woes aside, I'm going to take the Bucks for this one.
My cats keep knocking on the door. I have to open it for them.
They want in on these predictions. Let's see who else looks like they'll be a good close game with some top teams. Some of them will be interesting, like New Orleans versus the Toronto Raptors. New Orleans missed the playoffs, but we're assuming we have a fully healthy Zion Williamson, who in the very few games he played gave them a incredible win-loss rate.
Now, why did he play limited games though? Just to rest, or
he was coming off of an injury and they didn't want him to overdo it because they were pretty sure they weren't going to make the playoffs.
Another injury?
I think it was the same one. Right after the draft, he had some sort of leg injury or knee injury, if I remember correctly. And he came back on limited minutes to kind of see how he was doing. And there was a lot of frustration.
Okay. I was talking about the preseason games. I remember you saying earlier he only played like 2 games.
Yeah, he only played 2, but if I look, I think they only played 2 total games.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the preseason game totals are weird because of how they dealt with traveling. You know, a lot of teams, one team would travel and then they played against each other twice. So the Thunder, they played 2 of their preseason games against the Bulls just because it was easier.
So did the Rockets.
Yeah. So a fully healthy Zion, you've got they made some pretty decent signings. You know, they got Steven Adams now, where the Raptors, they only lost people. You know, they kept Van Vliet, but they lost Ibaka. They lost Marc Gasol.
Oh, I forgot all about that before I made my vote. I wrote down my name under the Raptors, but I don't know.
Well, I'm going to take New Orleans because I'm all about the Zion hype. He's super fun to watch. He's a great kid.
I'm going to stick with my intuition, Raptors.
Okay, it's more fun when we don't agree.
Yes.
We'll look back at it later. Let's pick one more game for Wednesday that we can talk about the next time we've got a show. Let's look at a team that made some interesting moves. How about Dallas versus the Phoenix Suns?
Ooh, that's going to be a good game.
We've got Luka Doncic. He's got Kristaps Porzingis as the Robin to his Batman. They should be solid. You know, they made the playoffs and they should only get better. They made a couple moves, getting Josh Richardson. And then, of course, Phoenix made one of the biggest moves of the offseason, getting Chris Paul. So we'll see how they do. I think Dallas wins, but I'd love to see what Phoenix can do with Chris Paul and Devin Booker.
I agree with you on that. I think Dallas wins, but I'm hoping the Suns win because I would just love to see Chris Paul go in and take another team to the top. I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. And if anything, I'd love for it to be close. No matter who wins, I want both of these teams to show that they're bigger and better than they were last season.
Agreed. Well, we are out of time.
Yes, we are. We'll get back to those predictions next time we have a show. Hopefully we can get something in around the holidays. We hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate, and enjoy some NBA basketball next week.
Bye.